Chris Broussard, co-host First Things First. He's also got the Odd Couple Radio with Rob Parker joining us live. So you the other day, Mario Chalmers, who doesn't appear to love LeBron, said, nobody's afraid of LeBron. They were afraid of Michael Jordan. What was your opinion on that?
Well, look, I do think he's right. I get where he's coming from, but the fear you instill in your opponents doesn't measure greatness. Now, obviously, I think Jordan's better than LeBron, but I'm thinking people would say Kobe inspired more fear as well. That doesn't correlate to greatness. I think it's more so LeBron's personality. He's a friendlier person. He wants everybody in the league, to be friends and come together and help guys be successful. Kobe didn't care about that. Jordan didn't care about that. And then style of play. Like, LeBron's style of play is less attacking because a lot of times he's looking to pass.
Right.
Whereas Kobe or Jordan is looking to score on you every time.
Yeah.
And Colin, I talked to a former player who was an all-star, played against Kobe and LeBron, and he said the difference between playing those guys is like the difference in fighting Mike Tyson or Floyd Mayweather. You're going to lose to both, and you know it because they're so great. But when you lose to Tyson, it's going to hurt, right? It's going to be painful. You lose to Floyd, it's not going to be painful. It's not going to hurt. And that's how guys feel. Yeah, we know LeBron's great, and he's going to beat me. He's better. But it's not going to be as painful as Kobe or Jordan attacking you every single possession. I don't think guys feared Tim Duncan playing against him, even though he was great. They probably feared going against Kevin Garnett more, but we all know Duncan was better than Garnett. So I think it's all of those things kind of coming together as to why not only Chalmers, but Gilbert Arenas said it recently. Chandler Parsons. I mean, guys that I don't know that they should be talking about LeBron like this, but they're all saying it now.
I also said that Magic Johnson wasn't feared necessarily, is that Magic is a very giving person. He is offended. If you come to L.A. in any sport and you don't lean into him, he's offended because he wants to help you. That's very LeBron. So you always have a line, your game is your game. I would add, your game becomes your personality, and your personality is your game. Magic and LeBron are very giving guys. This is not a knock. Michael tended to be, maybe it's his era, and Kobe, a little more selfish. All of them won. All of them are great. But your game becomes your personality. Right? Like, to some degree.
No, that's a great point. And obviously, Magic has remained very much in the public eye.
Yes.
I imagine LeBron will. He's obviously involved in so many things. He's got his TV shows and stuff. Whereas Kobe, even though he was wildly successful, he kind of moved away from basketball. Didn't want to be a broadcaster. Jordan hasn't, if he didn't own the team, the Charlotte team, who knows when we'd see Mike. So, yeah, I think that's a great point about the personality.
Yeah, and you can win a lot of different ways. So, I watched the Air movie. It's a movie about Sonny Vaccaro, who's going to be on our show next week, and Michael Jordan's mother. You don't see a lot of Michael. You see the back of Michael and hear his voice once or twice. But it's really a story about Michael's mom and Sonny Vaccaro, who have never probably been given the proper respect in the building of Michael's empire. I felt with the documentary, it made me like Michael more. Even his flaws, I found fun. He was just such a relentless, dogmatic guy. And the Air movie is more the same, where he made really good decisions. When you look at Michael and his ownership struggles and his wizard struggles and the baseball stuff, and people forget early in his career, pre-Pippen, he couldn't get to 500. How do you view those in the legacy? We know the 6 for 6, but you've talked to players. We've argued about this. How do you look at Michael's failings? And he's had several.
Yeah, I mean, not a lot of guys talk about his failings, because he was so successful once he started winning. But I remember, look, he used to get a lot of criticism. A lot of people talk about how, Jordan, nobody talks about his flaws. But when early in the late 80s, when he was playing tremendously individually, but not winning, everyone would criticize him in the media. He can put up numbers, but Magic and Bird, they're the winners. Isaiah, he's a winner. And so he did get a lot of criticism. but he was so great, individually. And remember, the Bulls, Chicago was a horrible franchise.
Yeah.
Much like Cleveland, although Cleveland actually had some pretty good years before LeBron, but similar, situation where the Bulls were they were a terrible franchise, and he lifted them up into being a flagship franchise. And so I think those are reasons that people kind of overlook. And even when he was early in his career not winning, he had the shoes, to your point.
Yeah.
And before he won championships, everybody was wearing Air Jordans. They took, the basketball world by storm, and they're even more popular today, believe it or not. But I think, he had the Come Fly With Me videos. He had his gear, so even before he started winning, he still was wildly popular. So I think people those years where he didn't win championships, people still look at them now as successful because of the great things he did individually.
But it is interesting, though. He was called early in his career selfish and not a winner, and now he's seen as the ultimate winner, so you can pivot things if you get those titles. Austin Reaves. So the NBA doesn't have a lot of stories. NFL does, but the NBA doesn't have a lot of stories of undrafted guy becomes really, really productive. Now, in the NFL, we see that all the time. Half the league is undrafted, right? Like Brock Purdy, 7th round. You see that all the time. You don't see this in the NBA. Is Austin Reaves, in your opinion, flash in the pan, kind of a Jeremy Lin, cute, brief story, or is there something to this?
No, I think there's something to it. Now, I don't think he's a future star, but I do think he's a very productive player for the next decade. He's a good player, and what he shows you, look, the last 4 games he's averaged 25 points a game. But Colin, even before that, since LeBron's been out, Austin Reaves has averaged 18 points and 6 assists a game. Now, again, I'm not saying he's going to be a star, but he's clearly going to have a nice, long, productive career and be a name that people recognize. And what it shows you is that basketball, I think after Jordan, because Jordan was so athletic, people overlooked the fact that he was a smart player, that he was cerebral, that he was fundamentally sound.
Yeah.
And for the next decade or so, kind of post-Jordan, the game was focused on athleticism. And people forgot, no, it's also about skills and fundamentals. And I do think right now in this era, we are seeing how important skills are, how important knowing how to play the game and being fundamentally sound are. Steph Curry, not incredibly athletic, but he dominates the game. Luka Doncic and Nikola Jokic dominate the game, not what we call athletic by basketball standards. And now you got a guy like Austin Reaves who, stayed in college for a few years. That's another thing. A lot of times guys that play a few years in college, they come out and they might not be as talented as the younger one and dones, but they know how to play the game. And so Austin Reaves and a lot of these other players are symbols of that. So, look, Magic wasn't incredibly athletic by NBA standards. Bird, we know all that. And so we got to understand that it's not just about how high you can jump, how fast you can move, but it's also about your understanding of how to play the game.
There have been rumors that LeBron's actually pretty healthy. He wants to take time off, get rested for the playoffs, get Anthony Davis minutes. You could argue it gets Austin Reaves some confidence. Where are you on LeBron returning? To me, LeBron's always, if he can play, he can play. But I would get LeBron saying, hey, let's get us in here. If I don't play for 30 days, I'm going to have amazing energy, and the West is wide open. Where do you fall on LeBron? Could he play? Can he play? Where are you at on it?
I mean, I've been told he may come back late in the season, May. So what I've been told is that he is legitimately hurt. But I think what people are looking at is the game where he hurt the ankle. He played that game. He continued playing and playing well. And so I think that's what people are looking at and saying, I think he could still play. And we've seen him play through injuries before. So I think he's legitimately injured. But look, if he was just sitting out to sit out and see what these guys can do, they better make the playoffs. And I get it that they have an easy schedule going forward, but most of the teams they play are fighting for something.
Yeah.
Right? Like they got Chicago. Chicago's fighting to get into play-in the East. You know, and several of these other teams they're playing are going to be fighting for seeding or to be in the play-in and things like that. So they really can't take anybody lightly. But it is giving these other players a chance to shine. And the thing, Colin, we've always seen that LeBron is hard to kind of fit around. Right? You can't just put him in like a Kevin Durant.
Right.
Now, I think he's a little easier to do now because he scores more. He's not as ball dominant. He's not always bringing the ball up court as much as he used to. He still does it occasionally. But so now he may be able to just come in and focus on scoring and the other guys kind of fit around him. But they're going to need a little time to see how that works because we've seen it before. Everything changes. Austin Reaves won't be this guy when LeBron's comes back.
That's right.
D'Angelo Russell be what he's been. So they're going to need a little time to get used to it.
Chris Broussard, who hardest job at the network, he has got to listen to Nick Wright's takes every day and restrain himself and fire back. It's a very difficult task, and we love him. First Things First is a gigantic hit. It's great seeing you, buddy. Congrats on everything. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.